Hello, everybody. What is going on? Happy Friday. We made it. Welcome into First Take as we head into this final weekend of the NFL regular season. I'm Charlie Arnold with my guys, Ryan Clark and Dominic Foxworth. Monica McNutt and Kendrick Perkins also going to be here in just a bit to talk about that epic finish between the Knicks and the Celtics last night. So New York, stand up. But first, guys, look, we all know one thing. When you have a story dealing with Antonio Brown, it never really goes away that quickly. And today we have even more developments to get into. So y'all ready for this?
Why not?
Man.
Let's do it. All right, as of yesterday, AB has officially been released by the Bucs organization. Also, we got some clarification from head coach Bruce Arians as to what went down on the field with AB. Brown claimed he was too hurt to continue playing on an injured ankle and as a result was kicked out of the game and cut from the team. But Arians is denying this, saying Brown was throwing a fit on the sideline for his own selfish reasons. Listen.
At no point in time during that game did he ever asked a trainer or a doctor about his ankle. He never went through, that's the normal protocol. You go through protocols during games. I was never notified of it. He was very upset at halftime about who was getting targeted. Got that calmed down. Players took care of that. It started again on the sideline. We called for the personnel group that he had played in the entire game. He refused to go in the game. That's when I looked back and saw him basically wave off the coach. I then went back, approached him about what was going on. I ain't playing. What's going on? I ain't getting the ball. That's when I said, you're done. Get the F out of here.
He accused you of making throat.
I don't know. Is that a throat slash? That's all it was.
Just to be clear, you would not force a player to play.
You can't force a player to play. You can't force a player to play. I mean, they have that choice. It's their body.
You know, just saying, Bruce Arians doesn't strike me as a throat-slashing kind of guy, so I kind of believe him when he says that he was making that movement instead. Guys, but let's get into the subject. Ryan, what do you make of this Bucs AB back and forth that we've got going on here?
I mean, it's a lot, right? It's starting to seem like a freestyle battle. You know, right now I'm waiting for, Papa Doc, and I'm waiting for Bunny Rabbit to come out. But when you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they ain't really seem like they wanted to address this any further from what you saw after the game. And then when Antonio Brown comes out with his statement and saying that he was hurt and he's kind of pointing the finger at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, now you have to answer. Now you have to respond, which really isn't what you want to be doing at this point of the season. Yeah. Right? This is a team that's trying to get prepared to play without Chris Godwin. And Antonio Brown was supposed to be a huge part of that. And right about now, on the Full Send podcast, Antonio Brown's going to sit down with Bob Menery and some of those guys, and he's going to say that Bruce Arians and Tom Brady were only his friends or were only on his side because he was good at football. Well, hell yeah, that's why they were on your side. There wasn't any other things that would make them really truly want to be your friends or want to be associated with you, other than the fact that you are really, really good at football, and that they could get you in pads and get you to the stadium. You are normally one of the more dominant wide receivers that have ever played the game. And that's what it's about. And so now the back and forth and the talking and focusing on this isn't really what the Tampa Bay Buccaneers want to be doing. Now, AB understands the spin of everything. He understands how he has to take some of the focus off of what we last saw, right? Because the visuals are so important. The last thing we saw was him doing jumping jacks, sliding out of the stadium with no shirt on, throwing the peace sign, and then jogging pretty well into the locker room. So now he has to make sure the spin is what he wants it to be in order to get another opportunity to play ball and for somebody else to forgive him because he's an elite talent. But for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, this is all bad, all wrong, and it's at the wrong dang time.
Yeah, I mean, and if it's a freestyle battle, there are two really bad rappers going at it right now because Bruce Arians don't have no bars. And I listened to that song that AB put out that night. He ain't got no bars either.
Hey, Pit No Palace.
It's unfortunate. I'm not saying that I can spit, but I'm not putting out music. That was not fun. Like, he had the whole world's attention. And he was like, we were like, what do you want us to do, AB? What do you want us to do? He was like, listen to this. And then I played it and was like, nah, that ain't hitting on nothing, bro.
You gave it a shot.
I gave him one spin. I threw that man 4 nickels for whatever that spin was worth. He can have it. But I think as far as what happened in the game, the problem is there's nobody to be sympathetic towards right now. Like, there's nobody to defend. I mean, Arians had all this information. Brady had all this information, the type of guy he was.
Yeah.
You, frankly, gave this information out well before anybody else was ready to accept it, having been in the locker room with him. They had this. So, like, I'm sorry. I don't have any sympathy for you. I'm not going to cape up for them in this moment because AB did AB things in that moment. Certainly can't defend AB for what he was doing because as much as I think that we should have sympathy and the mental health stuff comes up a lot. None of us are professionals. None of us are capable of diagnosing him. If that's what if he has some issues going on, I hope he gets the help. I hope he gets better. But that does not absolve you of the guilt of the decisions that you made in that moment. Like, you can have lots of reasons for why things happen, but if people have expectations of you, you cannot fulfill those expectations, that's fine. And I'm tempted to believe AB because about the injury situation, because as a former player, like, I know some coaches, they ain't worth nothing and they don't care about you. They will put you out there in those situations. Like, that happens all the time. I would believe that. That's not unrealistic. The problem is AB has such a track record that he makes it so hard to believe him. But even if I'm going to believe him that in that moment he was like, I'm hurt, AB don't need a trainer to tell him that his ankle is messed up or whatever. If AB is being honest in that moment, he's saying, I'm hurt, I can't go out there right now. Bruce Arians' response to that is get off the team. That's unacceptable from Bruce Arians in my view. But then AB, once he was in that moment, he might have got sympathy from me. He might have got some defense from me if we found out later that AB walked peacefully to the locker room and later they were like, what happened? He said, I was hurt. I couldn't go out there. Then the coach said, get off my team. And I walked in the locker room. I would have caped for AB at that moment, or at least said, look, this is what happens. That's unfair. That's his body. He knows what he's doing. He's an all-pro. He's not making this stuff. Even given his track record, I probably would have found myself giving him the benefit of the doubt. But what he did in that moment makes it really hard to defend him because he made a spectacle of the whole situation. And so many things like this and worse than this happen behind closed doors on NFL teams. I know you got stories. I got plenty of stories. When they happen in the locker room, when they happen on the practice field, we get over it. You cannot do it on national TV and have it playing on a steady loop on ESPN for the following week. That is going to embarrass your coach, embarrass your team, and they can't bring you back at that point. Not that he wanted to come back, and it's going to hurt your chances going forward. Particularly, and not that any of this was wrong. Once he left, he's doing Instagram videos, pointing people to rap videos. That's choices you can make. That's fine. If that's what you want to promote, that's what you're going to do. That's not wrong. But you understand, and I tell this to my kids all the time, and I have to remind myself of that. There are consequences for your decisions, whether they are fair or not fair. Like, AB know the game that he playing. He knows when he does these things that these things are going to hurt him.
Yeah. AB got full understanding, y'all. AB is actually very intelligent. And when you see some of these things seem really planned out, right? And so I know many times you're going to get the pushback, like everybody wants to say that something is wrong and that you have to give people time and you have to understand that people have mental issues. We don't get to diagnose those. What we get to do on our shows and what we get to do with our job is analyze people's actions as they pertain to football. As they pertain to football, what Antonio Brown did was unprecedented. Now, a coach telling a guy to get off the effing field because they don't want to play, because they don't think they're necessarily hurt, and some of those things, we have seen all of those things happen. But we know from other incidents that when you have video evidence, right, or when you can go back to the film and watch it, you get a different feeling from it, right? You get a different reaction. If we're just listening to these two stories because something happens at halftime in the locker room and Antonio Brown never comes back out of the locker room, I think every former player will sit here and say, you know what? We've seen coaches do some of the things that Antonio Brown is talking about. We've seen players have to defend themselves against coaches who don't believe, or against trainers who don't believe, or against doctors who don't believe that they're in the position that they're in. When I was dying in Pittsburgh, I had a doctor come up to me and read my test out and tell me that nothing was wrong with me, even though I went from 205 pounds. At the time, I was 170 pounds. And he handed me the paper and he said, now I'll listen to you complain. Right? At that moment, I didn't want to jump up and take my shirt off and throw the peace sign. I wanted to jump up and take his shirt off and throw him out the window. But I couldn't do that, Because at that point, it would be my word against his word, and you would be wrong. We've seen those type of situations. But when a guy does what Antonio Brown does, that is embarrassing to the team, that is embarrassing to himself, that is embarrassing to his teammates, it's almost something that you cannot repair. I believe that if Antonio Brown doesn't come out for the second half, Antonio Brown is playing for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers again this week. I think Antonio Brown knows that as well. And that's why the things went down the way that they are. And that's why the subsequent actions has been what they have as well, Dom.
I mean, the climate in the football locker room is a very, very dangerous one in many ways. And I understand all the things that you're saying. You've experienced it. The story that you told when you were literally about to die, they said, nah, you good, until they finally found out what was really going on. Like, that's a real thing. And I believe that to be the case in the Tampa Bay locker room. Also, Bruce Arians himself is out there coaching on a torn Achilles. Like, the idea that they believe that everybody, they can't have nothing. And I could understand if I'm in that situation and they like, your ankle hurt, get out there. I could understand wanting to lash out. But again, he's entitled to go get whatever help he needs to get right, to do all these things. But frankly, none of us are entitled to have a job at wherever we think we deserve that job. There are some things you got to do and some things you can get away with. And his talent is not such that he can get away with as much as he's done so far.
Oh, yeah. Well, and he's not helping his case at all either, because the team has made it very clear over the course of this week they've tried to reach out to him, scheduled doctor's appointment, an orthopedic specialist appointment. Antonio Brown has not owned up to any of that. He hasn't showed up to any appointment. So if you're really that injured, then go to the appointment. At least show that you're willing to make that effort. But as of yesterday, officially released from the organization. So let's leave it there, because we got to talk about Green Bay. And the question here is, guys, is the grass greener outside of Green Bay? Because right now it sure does not look like it. The Packers have already clinched the NFC. Aaron Rodgers putting together an MVP-worthy campaign. And they finished out the season playing the Lions. But even so, Rodgers still has not made up his mind about next season and says it's a fluid situation, just like it was this past offseason.
It's greener where you water it. I really believe that. And you know, that's an adage to dissuade people from going out and taking risks and chances. You know, I think that where you spend your time and energy and what you choose to water will always be the greenest part of your life. And I decided, you know, when I came back that I was going to be all in with the team and all in to see things move forward to a better place. And that's what the conversations were about, you know, during the off season, was about being a part of those conversations that impact my ability to do my job. And you know, from one of the first days, Brian and I sat down and got on the same page, and it's been a really nice fall and winter. I appreciate, you know, his approach, how it's been, and it's been very meaningful to me. So I'm thankful for that relationship where it's at this point, and that's made my life that much more enjoyable.
Okay, so this season has been a smooth one for Rodgers in Green Bay, but he hasn't made up his mind. So, Nick, what is the better situation for Rodgers, for him to stay where he is or leave for another team? Now, all this provided with the assumption that retirement, which he has tossed around, isn't actually a viable option.
Well, I mean, the grass is greener where you water it. Like, I love a metaphor as much as the next guy, but, like, I'm not sure that this applies to this current situation. So I think that, like, from a standpoint of winning another championship, I think staying in Green Bay is the right choice, given the talent they have around him. But I think given what Aaron Rodgers has, like, expressed, the desires that he's expressed, one of it, the biggest one, most important one, it seems like he wants more control and more influence, something that Green Bay has been unwilling to give him up until this point. Like, I think it's probably more enticing to Aaron Rodgers to go somewhere else and get that, to have success in a major city, in a major market, and to have the kind of roster construction power that it appears that Tom Brady has, to have that type of NBA LeBron level influence that his talent, he believes his talent should deserve. So, like, I understand the argument for him to stay there. Like, they've gone to 3 championships in back-to-back seasons, back-to-back seasons, assuming they go this year. That's a great situation for him to be in. They got a great left tackle when he's healthy. They got one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver in football. The defense is talented and kind of up and down, but they have the ability to shut people down when really needed. So, like, this situation is great, but I'm not sure that that's that important to him at this point in his career. You see him waxing philosophical almost every week on McAfee's show. He has so many other things that appears going on in his mind. It feels like to me that he also said, after he dropped that metaphor on us, that adage is meant to dissuade people from taking risk. So it doesn't even seem like, even though he put it out there to make it sound like it suggests that he wants to stay at home, he also put out there that that's a method of control, and he clearly is not down to be controlled.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, you can look at this and you kind of listen to the things that Aaron Rodgers are saying, and it does seem like they're always counter arguments to themselves in one sentence or in one sit down or in one interview. But what we look at with the Green Bay Packers before this season was an entanglement, right? It was Jada Pinkett. It was August Alsina. And then now you had to sit down. They got an opportunity to sit down at the red table, and, Will had that look on his face, and Jada was trying to explain it to him, and it all seemed to work out as things go forward. We make great movies about Venus and Serena Williams, and everybody's happy when we write a book. And so you look at Aaron Rodgers now, he's basically saying that Brian Gutekunst has kind of met him halfway. There's been compromises in who the Green Bay Packers have always been as it pertained to Aaron Rodgers, and they've sat down at the table together and done some of those things that Aaron Rodgers likes. But when you combine the ability or the willingness of the Green Bay Packers to extend themselves for Aaron Rodgers, and also the ability of this team, of this organization, of Matt LaFleur to put people on the field that can allow and help Aaron Rodgers to win while he's out there, this is the place that he's supposed to be. Now, if you want some of those other cute things that Dominique is talking about, then you go away and do it. If you want to go win at an organization and kind of add to your legacy in the way that a Peyton Manning has or a way that a Tom Brady has, then that's something you can do as well. But nobody is truly going to love you like the first folks.
Yeah.
And the first folks still love Aaron Rodgers. And even though it wasn't the situation you really wanted to be in, they are doing their best to compromise and change. When y'all sat down at the counselor says what Aaron Rodgers really wants is to be loved. He wants to be prioritized. He wants to be treated differently. And that's his love language, Dom.
That's all of us want.
You are so right that Aaron Rodgers just had to let him know that I'm sexy. I go out to these streets and people are looking at me. Like I am a snack, Green Bay. They thought they was playing, and he went around and put on something sexy and walked around a little bit, and then came back home. And now it appears that they are acting right. You are absolutely right. The Jada Pinkett, the entanglement idea was an interesting one because that put all this relationship stuff on the table. And you are right. But the issue is the backup that they got, Jordan Love. He not doing the thing the way that they wanted him to do it. So if Jordan Love was throwing the ball the way that he was supposed to throw the ball, it would be a lot. This whole situation would pan out a little differently. They would let him walk the same way they sent future Hall of Famer, or excuse me, current Hall of Famer Brett Favre packing because of Aaron Rodgers. So, like, it all comes down to the transactional nature of this relationship, whereas Aaron Rodgers wants it to be a lot more personal, and he feels like he deserves that respect. And they were like, we're not going to give it to you. And then he went out and proved to them that y'all going to give it to me, or I'm going to blow this all up. So maybe the threat of it has fixed the situation in the fact that the guy that they brought in wasn't able to step into the role the way that they hoped that he would, and it has changed. So maybe he should.
Nick.
Dom, that's part. I'm sorry. Go ahead. You go ahead, Charlie.
No, Ryan, go ahead. I had a follow-up.
Yeah, but I'm saying, like, the other thing about it, too, like you mentioned Jordan Love's play, but Aaron Rodgers' play matters as well, right? You go out, you draft Jordan Love, you think that Aaron Rodgers is kind of on the way out. We see him on TV saying, well, yeah, it was a bad year for me, but that's a Pro Bowl year. That's a career year for other players, and then you win the MVP. He has a chance to win the MVP again. It was definitely MVP All-Pro caliber play this season, and that makes you look at someone different, too. It was like, yeah, I did think you were getting a little long in the tooth. Yeah, I did think you were getting a little old, that the skills were diminishing a bit. But now he's playing some of the best football he's ever played. And for much of his career, many have thought that he was the best quarterback we'd ever seen.
Okay, Nick, here's my question. Hypothetically, the Packers go on to win the Super Bowl this year. What do you think Rodgers should do in that case?
Leave.
Still leave?
Yeah. I think if he doesn't win the Super Bowl, it's harder to leave than if he does win the Super Bowl. I feel like at that point, you have given everybody anything they could ask for. You leave on a high note at that point. I don't know. This is my point. I can't climb to Aaron Rodgers' head, but it feels like there's a lot of other things besides winning a championship that are important to him at this moment. And, like, fulfill those things. You don't owe anything to anybody but yourself. He clearly believes that. I mean, when he is citing Atlas Shrugged, like he believes these things.
Hey,
so go
hey,
ahead and get on that.
Dom, if he wins the championship, if he wins the championship, Green Bay gonna be sitting in their house like Eddie Murphy dad was that night that he said he was drunk on when he was doing Raw. They gonna say, I know you wanna leave me, but I refuse to let you go, Lillian. If I have to beg and plead to the symphony.
That's where I'm at.
Listen, hey, Green Bay is not going to just let Aaron Rodgers walk out of the door with the way that he's playing. And as you mentioned, Dom, with Jordan Love, even though it's only been one opportunity, having that opportunity and looking a little less than stellar.
Yeah, it wasn't just one opportunity. They see that man in practice too. It's not, they weren't surprised by those couple of opportunities by what happened out there. I thought it was going to take us more than the first segment for this to go off the rails into full-on singing, but
no, never. With you two, come on, we know better than that. But let's move on to our next topic because we already know, guys, that Baker Mayfield is out for Week 18 with shoulder surgery. But could the quarterback be out of Cleveland for good? Mary Kay Cabot of the Cleveland Plain Dealer reports that if Mayfield, quote, doesn't get assurances that things will change next season, the quarterback will consider asking to be traded. Cabot reports this boils down to a rift with head coach Kevin Stefanski. In Mayfield, he does have 1 year left on his rookie deal at a salary of nearly $19 million. However, Baker shut down this report, tweeting, quote, clickbait. You and many other Cleveland local media continue to be drama-stirring reporters with no sources or facts. Don't put words in my mouth so you can put food on your table. I'm not your puppet. Ryan, does Baker need a fresh start somewhere else given his struggles this season?
Absolutely. Baker needs a fresh start. Now, that doesn't mean that if Baker gets this fresh start, Baker is going to be a better quarterback. Right. But how many excuses are we going to make? How many times are we going to run this thing back? You know what? It was Hugh Jackson's problem too. Right? Wasn't it? Also, it was Freddie Kitchens' problem, too. Oh, my God. He asked Kevin Stefanski, the world is fixed. This is the perfect system for Baker Mayfield. An excellent run game, a boot play action game. Oh, my God. They have all these weapons. They're a preseason favorite to go and challenge Kansas City to be the AFC representative in the Super Bowl. Do we not remember all of those conversations? Do we not remember all of those debates and all of those opportunities we had before the season to talk about how great this was for Baker Mayfield? And now all of a sudden we got to blame it on everybody else? Wasn't it Odell's fault too? Y'all remember when Odell couldn't play? Right? When Odell was the reason that the skilled players wasn't playing well. And then when Odell left, they played against Cincinnati and they scored 41. Because Odell sucked, right? And because Odell was hurt. And because Odell couldn't score touchdowns no more. But y'all remember when Odell went to Los Angeles and he scored in like 5 of the 6 games?
Yeah, I remember.
And he all of a sudden looked good again? Oh, but y'all remember now people talking about the Cleveland Browns don't have the skilled players, or now we mad at Kevin Stefanski, even though Kevin Stefanski was coach of the year and he was all awesome and he made Baker Mayfield better and Baker Mayfield was now like Kirk Cousins was in Minnesota. Did I miss all that? All that junk change?
Yeah.
Right?
Nah,
so, yeah, Baker Mayfield
there.
need to go somewhere else because he ain't Cleveland. Do you know why people in Cleveland want Baker Mayfield to be the guy? The same reason if I was homeless and hungry that I would think a cheeseburger from McDonald's was a steak from Del Frisco's. Because I'm dang hungry. Because I'm tired of not eating. That's why we've been trying to make Baker Mayfield a guy.
McDonald's is good.
They know it. Dom knows it. Charlie knows it. He is not the guy, and it's time for him to be somewhere else.
Well, I mean, I guess that depends on how the question is pphrased. Does Baker need a fresh start? It's different than do the Browns need a fresh start. It sounds like you're arguing that the Browns need a fresh start. Baker don't need to go nowhere because all the reasons that you just listed, they haven't changed. Stefanski's still there. That O-line, still one of the best in the league. All the weapons that they have, even minus Odell Beckham, they still got a ton of weapons, really young, talented weapons, good running back, an offense that's not completely relying on him. Then the other side of the ball, the defense is loaded too. They haven't lived up to it necessarily, but they got a ton of talent on defense. This roster, really doesn't have any deficiencies on it, with the exception of the way the quarterback played this year. You can excuse away his play if you want to with the injuries because he was much better in the previous season where they did not need as much from him. I understand all the arguments that you're making for why he should leave. And I could even cite when I started hearing that the Mary Kay Cabot report that he was going to force a trade, of course, the first thing that came to my mind was Carson Wentz. It's like, who has the leverage to demand a trade when they're not good. And I don't remember anybody ever doing that other than Carson Wentz. And Carson Wentz left.
He said when they not good.
Got him a new situation, and it was fantastic for him. But the difference is Carson Wentz left a situation that was not very well built for him and went to a situation that was perfectly built for him. One that Baker's in right now. A great offensive line, a talented defense, an awesome running back. And they don't ask very much of him. So if I'm Baker Mayfield or his representative, get healthy. Get healthy and pray that they don't get anybody else out here to ruin this perfect situation for you. Just get healthy. The bar is low for you right now. You just got to be a little bit okay.
Because he made the
just
bar
be a little
low.
bit okay. Because the point that you made earlier, like you were not disparaging McDonald's hamburgers, but you're saying that it is not quite a top shelf steakhouse. Baker, just be a burger, baby. That's all you got to be. Just be a burger. You just got to be a burger next year. And they're going to be so happy because you're right. They are unhoused. They are starving. The Cleveland Browns fans.
They ain't got no rooms.
The Cleveland Browns organization, they ain't in a minute. You gave them a little taste last year when you won a playoff game, and they was talking about, sign them up. And now they trying to get rid of you. All you got to do, come back next year, be a full burger. You're going to get a big deal, and everything's going to be all right. That's it.
Going from a single patty to a double patty, right?
That's it. There you go. Add some cheese. No, ain't no cheese. Getting carried away. That's where Carson Wentz goes wrong. He try to add some cheese and end up getting intercepted. Just be a burger.
No. The Colts are their whole value meal this season. Okay, just watch. The Colts are going to bring you the double cheeseburger, the Big Mac, the fries, the sundae, the large Coke. Okay,
agreed.
They have it all. Okay,
agreed.
I know the McDonald's menu by heart. Also,
it's not Carson alone. Is the point. Don't try to put no cheese on it.
Listen, I'm giving it to the Colts.
Jonathan Taylor provide the beverages and the fries.
Absolutely, that apple pie. Okay, guys, you like that? Okay, well, we have a lot more to get to as they cheered his name. And when he was asked about what message he was trying to get across to fans, Randall did not mince his words, saying, quote, "Shut the F up." Oh, okay. The fire we need, and I know even more fire is going to be brought to this situation because look who we have on board, Kendrick Perkins and Monica McNutt. Now, Kendrick, you already said you are in no mood, and that's the mood that we like you in. So let's get right into all of this. Before we actually talk about the game itself, Perk, what is your reaction to Julius Randle's outburst?
You know what? I'm a huge fan of Julius Randle. I think, what he's shown the world over the last couple of years is a wonderful thing. But with that being said, Julius Randle was an all-star last year. Julius Randle won Most Improved last year. Julius Randle got a bag this summer. Now, what comes with all that is what? Responsibility and accountability. At the end of the day, Julius Randle hasn't been having the best season this year. Neither have the Knicks. So how you expect the fans to react? If you're not playing well, what they supposed to say? Keep good job? Keep up the good work? No, that's not how it goes. And so the problem that I have with not only Julius Randle, but a lot of these young players today is that they're so damn sensitive. Look, you signed up for this. This is part of it. And again, I love Julius Randle and the player that he is, a Texas boy repping in the NY and the NBA and doing this thing. But this is part of it, dog. Mm-hmm. This is part of it.
Perk, you so eloquently nailed that. I don't have an issue with it, though. I think, and mind you, this happened, I believe, in that third quarter while the Knicks were closing the gap. They have been down by as many as 25 points. I think that's the first time since 2004 they've come back from such a deficit. Back then it was 26. And so I don't mind the emotion. I think Julius has to understand everything that you just said because there were high expectations set last year as Most Improved and an All-Star. And quite honestly, this Knicks group, who remained intact at the core, has not lived up to those expectations. And so, yes, when you have fans of New York basketball that are astute and that are frustrated, the boos come. But I'm also not mad at Julius. And I appreciate him being honest in the postgame about what that was about. I'm okay with this push and pull from fans to players. If that's how you respond when you get booed, then let the boos rain down, because that was quite a showing of character and grit and toughness from that Knicks squad to ultimately come back and get the W.
Yeah, it was a huge comeback, so let's talk about that game. Monica, was last night more about a Knicks comeback, or was it about the Celtics collapse?
It was about the Knicks comeback from where I sit. I mean, this is a Celtics squad that has struggled all season. And quite honestly, Charlie, I was sitting on the couch ready for overtime and concerned about how things would plan out. And so down the stretch, it's crazy because 2 plays prior to, or it might have been 1 play prior to RJ hitting that incredible shot. And I would like to get on my TED Talk about using the glass, because it is an art that is lost. The glass is amazing, people. And that was a perfect demonstration of that. But prior to that, I'm sitting in the house like, okay, so what's up with the middle school press break? You barely get the ball in bounds in what is a tightly contested ball game in the waning moments. And so I think to get that execution down the stretch, it showed such tremendous maturity on RJ's part, who has kind of been up and down from behind the 3-point line over the course of the season, although he was 2 of 4 from last night. And then post-game, you saw Miles McBride tweet out that RJ works on that shot. And so that was a huge moment. But the collective, Evan Fournier's performance, please let him play the Boston Celtics in the Garden in particular all season, because he's terrific versus that team. But I even thought that Emmanuel quickly had some huge moments in that 4th quarter. And of course, Julius got big baskets in the 3rd quarter as the game was becoming much more tightly contested. My hope, Charlie and Perk, is that this is a turning point for this Knicks squad in terms of the collective effort that was required, and that was ultimately successful. We've had different guys go off. And yes, Evan was the highlight from a standpoint of scoring, but each guy I thought showed up in big time moments, and this was a big momentum win.
Huge.
Well, let me make this clear, okay? Both of these teams right now is hot garbage, okay? So let's not overreact, because all the Knicks fans out here acting like they won the NBA Finals. That's the first thing.
Let them soak it in.
No,
Let them have a moment, Perk.
no,
we got
no,
that. We got that.
No. So I'm gonna talk about the Celtics. And you know what? I'm so happy that this happened on national TV, that the way they lost, because it's one team that I watch every single game, and that's the Boston Celtics. And it's time and time again that I have come on here telling y'all that they are who they are. This is who they are. So when I'm watching the game last night, and I watched the Knicks get the lead down to single digits, I said, you know what? The Celtics are about to fold like fresh sheets. And they did just that. You know why I said that? Because when you look at the Celtics and you look at what they have done this season, they are the worst, or close to the worst, for us when games are decided by 5 points. Here's the problem that I have. Everybody in the Celtics organization is too damn comfortable. Starting with the players, okay? When you have role players down the stretch, like a Marcus Smart keeps shooting these ill-advised 3-point shots, you have Dennis Schroeder dribbling the hell out of the damn basketball, and you're not getting the ball to Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown in the 4th quarter when it matters the most. I played with multiple Hall of Famers. Down the stretch when I was in Boston, we went to Kevin Garnett and Paul Pierce. When I was in Oklahoma City, we ran 2-man game with Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant. When I was in Cleveland, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, 2-man game. Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum need to play 2-man game. So that goes to show me it's too comfortable where? With the coaching position, Ime Udoka is too damn friendly. He does not hold these guys accountable. When you have role players doing things outside their body, that's a problem in itself, and that means that he's being too friendly instead of holding them accountable. Now, why is he coaching the way that he's coaching? Because he's too comfortable. Why? Because Brad Stevens is too comfortable as well. Like with Grossbeck, Steve Pagluga, what's going on? Like, this is the city of champions. We're not just settling for, getting into the playoffs and losing in the first round. The Celtic Nation, the media, everybody around the New England area wants the Celtics to win what? It's all about championships. And here's the last thing I'm going to say.
Come on.
It's time to break Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown up. It's time to break them up, because if you go back and watch all the Celtic games, either Jason Tatum is having a good game and Jaylen Brown is struggling. Jaylen Brown is having a great game. Jason Tatum is struggling. Their body language says that they don't like playing with each other. And all of a sudden, you get to this point, and then Brad Stevens say, oh, we're just going to see. I mean, we can't rush it. You better rush it. And the problem is that everybody in the Celtics organization is too comfortable.
All right. Well, no wonder Perk is in no mood this morning. The Celtics can't seem to get it together, but the Knicks sure as hell got it together. Last night was only the second time that they have been able to stage a comeback when they're down 25 points or more in the past 25 seasons. Their record overall, listen to this. This is kind of alarming. They are 2-229 in that regard. So last night was a big deal for the Knicks. Okay, Monica, you're sticking around for quick takes next segment. Perk, we'll see you in just a bit. Coming up, the sun is... Oh, my gosh. Okay, Damian's reaction when he got punked was so good yesterday. It has been such a fun week here on First Take, but guess what? It's not over. Here's what's on the way in our second hour today. Is Cooper Kupp the best wide receiver in the league? You can only choose one, and our guys respond to that in just a bit. Plus, which of the NBA's brightest stars would you take for the next decade? 22-year-old John Morant or 27-year-old Giannis? And with the Natty right around the corner, Paul Feinbaum joining the show to break down all things Georgia, Alabama. Let's go. But before we get to all that, we got to talk about that bad man, Aaron Rodgers, who the Packers now own the top seat in the NFC. So Green Bay is now in a very good situation. Aaron Rodgers is as well. He has put together an MVP-worthy campaign. And get this, it can't get any easier. The Packers finishing out the season playing the Lions. So life is good. But even so, Rodgers has said he doesn't know what his future holds. Everything is fluid. And that is the exact same mindset he headed into this season with in the offseason. Listen.
The grass is greener where you water it. I really believe that. And, that's an adage to dissuade people from going out and taking risks and chances. I think that where you spend your time and energy and what you choose to water will always be the greenest part of your life. And I decided, when I came back, that I was going to be all in with the team and all in to see things move forward to a better place. And that's what the conversations were about. During the off season was about being a part of those conversations that impact my ability to do my job. And, from one of the first days, Brian and I sat down and got on the same page, and it's been a really nice fall and winter. I appreciate, his approach, how it's been, and it's been very meaningful to me. So I'm thankful for that relationship where it's at this point, and that's made my life that much more enjoyable.
All right, well, we like that for him for sure. Now, two-time Super Bowl champ Rob Ninkovich is here along with Neek and RC. Now, gentlemen, let's not forget Rodgers. He has tossed around the idea of retirement, but provided that doesn't happen, Nink, what do you think the better situation is for Rodgers, for him to stay in Green Bay or join another team?
Yeah. Well, first of all, Aaron Rodgers saying that, Neek or Nink? That always confuses me.
You got it, Rob.
No, I was trying to say that Aaron Rodgers is basically field turf. His grass is always going to be green. He don't have to water it. Wherever he goes, it's green. So some other places it might be, the grass isn't always greener, but Aaron Rodgers has that power. He can go wherever he wants. He can decide where he wants to go. He can stay where he's at, but he's Aaron Rodgers. So he's having another MVP season. He doesn't have to worry about the whole grass greener stuff, all the things that come with greener grass or not the grass always greener, whatever it may be. The guy is Aaron Rodgers. He's loaded. He's made 250, 300, 400 million. I don't know. It don't matter. He's rich.
He's very rich.
He's doing fine. I think, though, he's a risk-averse football player. Like, he doesn't turn the ball over because he doesn't put the ball in dangerous situations. Which would suggest that he probably would make decisions off the field similar to that. Like, he would stay in Green Bay maybe, but it doesn't seem like he is, like, imbued with that same philosophy in his life outside of football. So I think it's not about winning championships necessarily. Obviously, he wants to win as much as possible. But to your point, Rob, that if he goes anywhere, they automatically become a championship contender. And he saw what Tom Brady was able to do, and I think that he could go somewhere else, pick his place, and be ready to win a championship elsewhere. So it seems to me that based on the way that he's been behaving for the last couple years, I guess, that he wants to figure out what it's like elsewhere. He wants a different experience, and nothing's wrong with that. The only problem that I had with the way that he was going about this was where he was trying to point the fingers at everyone else and kind of say, like, they haven't given me what I needed. They haven't listened to me, when at the same time they've had one of the best rosters in football. So really all he wanted was a little bit of an elevated position. He just wanted to be treated a little less like a player and a little bit more like management. He wanted that level of respect. It seems like they're giving it to him. If that's all he wanted, then he should stay. But I think he wants more. He wants to go somewhere else and feel what it's like to wear another jersey and win in another city. So I think he absolutely should win one this year and then move on.
Listen, if we're going to talk about respect, someone like Sidney Poitier was someone who demanded respect, and God rest his soul, he's passed at 94. And you listen to Dom talk a little bit about somebody that wanted a new experience. Catherine wanted a new experience on Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, right? And so she decided she was a free-thinking young white woman in that time, and so she brought John Prentice home, and he was played by Sidney Poitier. But then she realized there's some adversities when you want new experiences. There's going to be some people who don't necessarily think that that's the things that you should try. And that's how I feel about Aaron Rodgers. I don't think that Aaron Rodgers needs to go anywhere else. I think that Aaron Rodgers, he made it a point to say, you know what, guys, I think I should be treated this way. I believe I should have more say-so in decision-making. I believe that I should have more say-so on what the future of my career is. And the Green Bay Packers acquiesced to that. The Green Bay Packers changed who they are. We got to remember, this is a team without an owner, right? And so they don't have an owner that can come in and fix everything. They would kind of run a different way, but this team changed the way they did business because of the way Aaron Rodgers played, because they realized that Jordan Love might not be ready to take over for Aaron Rodgers as he was for Brett Favre. And listen, just like Virgil Tibbs had to prove on the heat of the night back in the day that he was innocent, right? Bill Gillespie arrested him, and he had to prove that he had to prove who he was, and then say, you know what, I ain't the problem. This dude's the problem. That's what Aaron Rodgers said. I ain't the problem. I ain't never been the problem.
As long as he's in Green Bay, he is not going to have to worry about heat at night. But he might shrivel like a raisin in the sun if he goes elsewhere and they cannot protect him the way that they'll protect him in Green Bay. I don't know if that makes sense to anybody, but I just had to outdo you on Poitier references. That's all. Oh,
right,
Rob, sorry, buddy.
All right, Nink, what
it's
do you,
all
what
good.
Do you,
I'm
what do you
here
do
for the
with these
ride,
two?
baby.
Yeah. Thank you for coming in.
I love listening to him because Heat of the Night. I don't even remember what's Heat of the Night. I don't even remember that.
It's
you all
a freaking classic.
Heat of the Night.
He's a freaking
classic, bro. It's way before your time.
When you brought Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, I like that, but I was also thinking the Defiant Ones, which he is now linked, handcuffed to a general manager named Brian Gutekunst. And at the beginning of that movie, just like at the beginning of this season, they couldn't wait to get away from each other. They wanted to do was to separate and go in different directions. But by the end,
it works.
By the end, they have figured out a way to work together. That is the perfect analogy. R.I.P. Sidney Poitier. But, I mean, 94, a black man, that man beat the odds.
Okay, well, whatever. He's here for the rest of the season. We know that much. And in Week 18, they have a cakewalk. It's against the Lions. Really just a throwaway game because the Packers have already clinched the conference. But Matt LaFleur says all healthy starters are going to play. So how much, Nink, do you think that Rodgers should play in this game?
I think he should play. I mean, it's all about going out there, keeping your timing, keeping everything kind of flowing in the right direction. You hit the playoffs, they're already going to have a week off. They're going to have a week to rest, get back into practice, go out there and go play in these playoff games. So I'm not a huge fan of resting everybody. There'll be 2 weeks off then. And I mean, Aaron Rodgers really doesn't. I don't understand it. He'll if he has a quarter and he's rusty, he'll get back into the swing of things. But at the end of the day, football players want to play football. I'm sure he wants to go out there, and he's smart. He can take care of himself, throw the ball quick, get it out of his hands. They're protecting quarterbacks anyway. I'm not really worried about him.
Nick?
Yeah, I mean, I think football players want to be football players, but not everybody gets what they want. Yeah, because there are some football players on the other side who also want to be football players, who want to hit your quarterback. And I get what everyone, the point people are making about trying to stay warm, given the fact that they started the season was Aaron's worst game of the year. So that was a long layoff, obviously, and then he did not play well in it. That's a reasonable thing to be concerned about, but I'd be more concerned about injury or hurting that toe that we all got to know better than I think any of us wanted to see. But I do think that safety is more important. Like, he's not a young kid. He knows how to play. Him and Adams, they play with one brain. I'm not sure that a couple weeks off is going to hurt him. I understand the point, but to me, it's more important to get them this rest, to keep them healthy, and to try to get them ready for the playoff run that they're going to hopefully go on.
You know what? I think it's not about what we think, right? How much we think Aaron Rodgers should play. It's basically going to come down to how much Aaron Rodgers thinks he needs to play. And when we talk about the way that he's now moved in the organization, and he has a little say-so over the roster or a little say-so over his career. He has total say-so on his body. He has total say-so on what he needs to be ready to play in the divisional round of the playoffs. And if he thinks that he needs a couple of series to make sure that he can stay hot, to make sure that the chemistry and kind of the telepathy that he plays with the Devontae Adams is still sharp, that Allen Lazard is still in fine tune with Aaron Rodgers, then I think you let him play a little bit, but he has to protect himself. And as a coach, you have to protect him as well. There is no way in this world, there is no world or no multi-universe that makes sense that Aaron Rodgers finishes this game quarterbacking the Green Bay Packers. Jordan Love actually needs the reps anyway. This doesn't change their playoff seeding. Get him a couple of reps, let him fill it out for a little bit, maybe a quarter, then get Aaron Rodgers out, put a hoodie on him, right? Put a hat on him and allow him to watch from the sideline.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good strategy. Okay, guys, that wraps up this conversation. Nink, thanks for joining us. Thanks for bringing a little bit of calmness to the, two guys on the other side of the
Appreciate you, Nico.
Here as well, averaging 25, 6, and 5 on the season. But who would you rather have, the 22-year-old Morant or the 27-year-old Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is putting together another MVP caliber season himself? That is the question of the hour. And with that, we welcome back Kendrick Perkins and Monica McNutt.
This is horrible.
Ooh, yeah, this is a tough one. I know both of you are already shaking your heads. So, Monica, I'm going to put the pressure on you to choose first. Take your pick. Which young star would you rather have?
Oh my gosh, Charlie. You know, we get these questions from our terrific producers, and every now and again you're like, come on, man, are you kidding me?
There's a reason why we're asking you to.
Listen, oh my God. After much debate, I landed by the thinnest of margins on Ja Morant, and I am pointing to one Chris Paul at the age of 36 and what he's currently doing for the Phoenix Suns, a team with the best record in the league right now. And I think, although I really struggled in terms of Ja's physique, I think what Ja has uniquely under wraps at this point in his career that's very, very impressive is understanding the pace of the game. He absolutely can give you a Russell Westbrook type of explosion moment when he gets to the paint. But I, again, think back, Perk, to that win versus the Warriors to get in the play-in last year. And on paper, you may have not have been impressed by his stats, but if you watch that game, the way that he held onto the ball, dictated the pace, facilitated, took shots in spots that were valuable, and even the way he shot the three ball, which was not something that he did prolifically last year, he understands the pace and the speed of the game. And we know change of speed, change of direction are like very fundamental things in the game of basketball. And so at his age, at the point guard spot with so many young talents around him, to have a grasp on that is so impressive. And I think he will be able to change his game as his body and athleticism may change down the road.
Guess what? I ain't mad at you. I ain't mad at you.
It's
And
tough.
you know how I feel about Ja. But look, I'm gonna say this. I'm not taking nobody over Giannis Antetokounmpo. Okay, I just can't.
Okay.
And for the simple fact that I understand that he's 27, but we have at least 8 more years of Giannis doing what he is doing right now at this high level. When you look at his physical build, right? It reminds me of LeBron James and Karl Malone. Like, they have that body frame and they have that type of mentality and they have that type of physical presence that they could do this for an extended period of time. And so looking at Giannis only being 27 years old, he still has 7 years max in my opinion, in his prime, but we don't know what prime is no more. Like LeBron James has exceeded prime. Like it used to be 27 to the age of 34, but now LeBron James is saying no. Prime is what you put into your body, and we all know how disciplined Giannis Antetokounmpo is. Now, you know I can't leave this subject without giving Ja his flowers. Now, Ja Morant, when you talk about his ceiling for as far as his career, it's Jordan-esque. And I'm going to tell you why. Because think about it. When Michael Jordan came into the league in 1984, no one expected him to pan out the way that he did. And when he came in with Bird and Isaiah Thomas and Magic Johnson, and then all of a sudden he rose to the top as the number 3 pick. Ja Morant, the number 2 pick. Every year he's getting better. Every year he's opening eyes. Every year he's shocking the world. He's doing things and he's winning in a small market like in Memphis, and he's doing it at a high level. So just think about this last year. Last year, we was like, Ja is really good. This year, we're talking about actually putting him in the MVP conversation. He should be an all-star starter. He should make an all-NBA team if he don't get hurt. So when I look at it, I don't want people to overreact like it's so far-fetched. The guy is only 22 years of age, and he's going to continue to get better.
Berg, you start throwing out Jordan and just get ready to tell some folks to carry on and that you said what you said. I would rein it back off Jordan just a little bit and go with more of a Steph type of ceiling. And of course, Steph's career is still being written. But when I think of these certain everyman, je ne sais quoi, in that these are not guys that are towering at 6'8", big behemoths and physical beasts and imposing presences the way Giannis is. But I look at what Ja has been able to do, and I definitely think he's going to be a signature face of a generation. Like, you look at his social following, and Gen Z loves him. I love him. I'm not Gen Z. Like, he's tremendous. And so I do think that he has the unique ability to create another shift in the game. And yes, he is a product of some of what we've seen from Steph, although he doesn't shoot the ball that way. But this influx of smaller and physical stature guards that have incredible quickness, are able to elevate quickly off the ground as well in terms of that bounce. I feel you on the MJ. I'm leaning back and pulling it to a little bit of Steph right now because I think the branding is there. We love Welcome to the Dark Side, his whole campaign, but it's not far-fetched to me.
But think about this for a second, Monica. I'm just saying, think about when Jordan was drafted. Nobody thought that Jordan would be in the conversation of being the GOAT, okay? It was 2 other guys that were taken in front of him. Jordan had to work to get where he was, and he reached the level of greatness. So you're telling me watching the way that Ja Morant is climbing, it's the ceiling is unlimited. This is a guy that has proven that he can.
Hold on, Perk, because we're going to run out of time. But wait, Perk, this would be my only question to you on the pushback. Jordan blocked guys straight up over the course of his era. Like, are you saying that you think Ja has the ability to be that dominant of a presence and keep guys from getting to the ultimate prize in NBA? I just think that the league right now, there's such a dearth of talent. I don't know if he will do that.
Well, listen, let me tell you something, okay? First of all, I'm not worrying about running out of time because I sat here for 30 minutes and listened to Ryan Clark and Dominique Foxworth talk about good times, the heat of the night, and now we're talking about basketball. So we got to have our moment. So we got to have our moment. So at the end of the day, is what I'm telling you is when I'm looking at Ja at 22. Okay, we look at Steph. Steph is towards the end of his career, right? I ain't saying it's going to be over soon, but when you look at all the superstars that are in front of him, except for Giannis, I think that Ja could have a better career and overtake and block a Luka. I think he could block a Devin Booker. I think he could block a Donovan Mitchell. Like, when I'm looking at this guy right now, we already talking about, hey, did the Pelicans make a mistake and not drafting him number 1? When you start to move in that direction, that means you're doing certain things. You're doing special things. So I'm going to leave it at that. But at the end of the day, Charlie, I know we got to go. But to answer your question, if I'm starting a franchise, I'm taking Giannis, not only over Ja, but everybody else in the NBA.
Okay, all right. Well, that says a lot about your choice then. And Monica, you chose John Morant for the next 10 years. Would that be the person that you would choose over everybody else if you were starting your own franchise?
Yeah, come on, man. I'm gonna lean in. I think Ja is that special, and we know that in this league, yes,
You see what I'm saying?
And forwards are tremendous, but like that piece, come on, man, he's going to be a guy that people want to come and play with, and I agree with Perk. He's gonna make Memphis so attractive.
And both of you talking about the ceiling of John Morant. What?
What you mean, Perk?
No, you see what I'm?
We agree. You just can't say it.
You see what I'm saying? No. You see what I'm saying about Monica? She just wanted to go back at me and say, you know what? Let's tone it down before comparing it to Jordan. Then all of a sudden she come on here and say, I take him over
Monica,
everybody for the next 10 years.
That's not an option. What are you talking about? Okay, go ahead.
Lord have mercy.
That's a pretty good point. But Monica, you know what? You still made a very valid argument. I mean, Steph Curry, Michael Jordan. If the ceiling is either one of those for John Morant, he's looking at a very, very, very successful career in the NBA. Hey,
Absolutely.
Both of you, thank you so very much. Happy Friday. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
You two going
Thanks,
at it.
Charlie.
Second to none. Thanks so much, guys.
Mm-hmm.
I'm waiting on my invitation to their podcast, Charlie. Perkins Swagoo playing. But anyway.
Don't start.
Hey, we're going to continue this on another day. I promise you all that much. Still ahead, everybody. Look who it is. The man of the hour, Mr. Paul. The big game only a few days away, and as of today, Georgia is a 2.5-point favorite in the national championship game over Alabama. It's the third time since 2010 that Alabama has been an underdog. Each of the previous 2 times came against Georgia, and each of the previous 2 times, Alabama won by at least 17 points. And no better way to get ready for an all-SEC national championship game than welcoming in none other than the mouth of the South, the host of the Paul Feinbaum Show, Mr. Paul Feinbaum. Paul, thank you so much for being here. We have a lot that we want to get into with you. So first of all, we mentioned this is a rematch of the SEC championship game where Bryce Young dominated, but there is going to be a difference this time around. He's going to be facing Georgia without John Mechie, who had 97 yards and a touchdown. So do you think that Young can have another monster game without Mechie and also against a very tough Georgia defense?
I think he can. He still has Jamison Williams, the transfer from Ohio State, who has really emerged as one of the top wide receivers in the country. But the one difference this game will have, other than Mechie, Charlie, than the last game, is Brian Robinson. He was absolutely brilliant in the semifinal game against Cincinnati. Alabama completely changed its approach because Cincinnati had a really strong secondary. He was not healthy in the SEC championship game, and while you can't make a living out of running against Georgia because of their defensive line, he could be a factor in opening things up for Bryce Young.
Okay, well, let's now focus on Georgia because on their offensive end, questions are always swirling about the ability of Stetson Bennett. So do you trust him to be able to lead Georgia's offense, Paul?
I'm hesitant to answer that question in the affirmative. I will tell you, I talked to Booger McFarland the other day, who was really negative on Stetson Bennett. He flat out said Georgia can't win a national championship with Bennett. I think they can, but I think it will be difficult. He is good. He played brilliantly against Michigan, but that's a different story than against Alabama, who has not as good a defense as Georgia, but pretty close. And I want to see something that I haven't seen out of him. And in the previous 2 games against Alabama, he was very pedestrian. He threw a lot of interceptions. And I think that could be the difference in this game. Meanwhile, for those who are wondering why stick with Stetson Bennett, JT Daniels, a 5-star from Southern Cal, who started the first game for Georgia, has been on the bench ever since he came back from an injury. And if things don't go well for Georgia early in this game, keep your eye on JT Daniels on the sidelines.
Okay, well, Stetson Bennett obviously doesn't have all of your confidence, but Nick Saban, come on, you can't count against this guy. He's already won 7 national championships. If he wins this time around, it'll be 8. So, Paul, how many championships do you think he's going to win when it's all said and done?
I thought 3 years ago when he lost by 28 to Clemson that maybe things were starting to tighten for his future, but he has shattered that myth right now, Charlie. He won last year in a COVID year. He could win this year. He's 70 years old. Only Bobby Bowden has won a national championship at that age. If Saban wins Monday night, I think he has 2 or 3 more in him. Wow. And why not? He's got, a lot of people are saying, well, why don't you walk away? Well, why would you walk away when you have Bryce Young coming back? He's the best player in college football. So I think the window is wide open for him to keep piling on. And, he's not only the best coach in college football history, Charlie. We're beginning to think about him in the conversation for the greatest coach in any sport if he wins again Monday night.
Okay, well, stepping away from the national championships for just a second, because we know you love the SEC, and as great as Alabama and Georgia are, would you say this rematch is a good thing or a bad thing for college football as a whole? And actually, I'm sorry, I was reading ahead, so we are sticking with the national championship game for now.
Charlie, I think if I read my contract correctly, I'm not allowed to say anything other than this is the greatest game in the history of mankind.
Oh, okay,
but
there you go.
But I'm going to answer your question honestly. I don't think it is good for college football. Oh. I think outside of Georgia and Alabama, which border each other, this game is kind of a yawn if you're in LA or in New York or Chicago, because it is not. It's a regional game. It's a game we've already seen. And the problem with college football is it needs to be broader. And until the college football playoff is expanded, it won't be.
Okay, well, that's a very hot take, Paul. Now we want to talk about someone that you are a fan of, because there has been speculation that your good pal Jim Harbaugh could entertain the opportunity of leaving college football for an NFL head coaching job. So if it were up to you, where would you rather see him go? Do you think it's better for him to go to the NFL or stay where he is?
I think you should leave. I don't think it's even a close call. Let's talk about a couple of things first of all.
Okay.
A year ago, he got called in, and his salary was cut in half. And he proved everyone wrong. But the problem is still going to be the same for Jim Harbaugh. He's got to deal with Ryan Day and Ohio State. And while they won this year, I don't think he can make a living depending on that. He was a very good NFL coach. Let's not forget, Jim Harbaugh took the 49ers to 2 straight NFC championship games. He went to the Super Bowl losing to his brother, and I think he can do it again. I think he's a better NFL coach than he is in college. And, Jim, if you're listening, take a job. Get out of there. Whether it's the Raiders, the Bears, or someone else, I think it's time for you to go back to the NFL where you belong.
I love that. Okay, you heard the man. Go to the NFL. Okay, now, Paul, quarterback Caleb Williams also mulling his future options after his former Oklahoma coach Lincoln Riley left for USFC. So how significant is this storyline in the college football landscape?
In many ways, Charlie, this is the biggest story in college football this week. I know that sounds blasphemous considering we're hyping up the national championship game. But we are in a place we've never been before. We're out in the galaxies now and trying to comprehend this. This is a college football player who, by the way, didn't even start the season as a starter. He was the backup to Spencer Rattler, who was the Heisman favorite. He beat him out, and now he said, you know what, Lincoln Riley's gone. I'm going to put myself up for bid, in essence. And, I mean, he could end up making millions of dollars depending on where he goes. We are talking about college football here, and the president of the NCAA uses the word amateur athletes, student athletes. That's a crock. I mean, this is the new world, and we are living in it, and we're not going back to where we used to be.
Okay, well, there could be some shakeups in the college football landscape. Paul, before I let you go, are you expecting a shakeup on Monday in the national championship game? What's your prediction?
I am not going against Nick Saban. I've done it once or twice in my life, and I'm not doing it again. I think he's the better coach. I think Georgia may have the better team on paper, but I don't think a lot has changed. You mentioned Mechie. Other than that, I think it's the same 2 teams, and I think we'll get not a similar result in terms of a 3 or 4 touchdown win, but I think Alabama will win this game.
Okay, Paul, I think you're probably a smart man for going in that direction. Paul, thank you so very much, and be sure to check out this guy's show. It airs Monday through Friday, 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. on the SEC Network. So, Paul, thank you so very much.
Charlie, thank you so much. A pleasure.
All right, let's keep it moving, everybody. A lot of plugged-in NFL insiders thinks this is Danger Russ's last season for the Seahawks. If he does go somewhere else, can he reach another Super Bowl? That is breaking news out of the NFL. Our Field Yates tweeting that the Arizona Cardinals have designated defensive lineman J.J. Watt to return from injured reserve. The Cardinals have already locked up a playoff spot and currently sit 5th in the NFC playoff positioning. Now, DeAndre Hopkins, he's still on IR. He will be returning possibly should the Cardinals make a deep playoff run. But Ryan, with this news about Watt, you think the Cardinals can still go on a run in the playoffs?
I do believe they can go on a run. We saw them generate enough offense against the Dallas Cowboys, who are also a playoff team. They already won the NFC East, and we see that, with A.J. Green on the outside, Christian Kirk, obviously Chase Edmonds. You hope to get James Conner back, Zach Ertz at the tight end position, more targets than any tight end in the league since coming over from the Philadelphia Eagles. This team can go a run, but J.J. Watt is a huge piece of that. J.J. Watt was a guy that, even though the statistics didn't look like the defensive player of the year, he was huge in the run game. He was huge in freeing up people on the outside for one-on-one single rushes. And if you go back to the Detroit Lions, who beat the Arizona Cardinals, you go back to the Los Angeles Rams, who have beaten them in the last month, they've run the football. Reynolds rushed for over 100 yards for the Detroit Lions. Sony Michel gets 20 touches in the backfield against the Los Angeles Rams. And I believe that J.J. Watt will be a huge part of stopping that, as he was early on in the season. He is probably a bigger addition than even a DeAndre Hopkins will be when he comes back off of IR.
Yeah, I know that might sound ridiculous, but I agree with you. The way that this defense looked, they were one of the best top 2 or 3 defenses in football all the way up until week 7 when JJ got hurt. From that point on, they've been one of the worst defenses by all measures in football. And to your point, if you just look at JJ's individual stats, you may not appreciate the impact that he had on that team. But playing interior defensive line, a lot of times you aren't going to get the stats that you need. Not everyone can be Aaron Donald and still rack up sacks, but they can still be critically important to that team. And it seems like the overall numbers suggest that J.J. Watt was that important. I'm not suggesting that all of their defensive decline was a result of J.J. Watt getting hurt, but certainly a great portion of it was. And having him back and healthy, if he can stay healthy through the course of the playoffs and rested potentially, could mean a lot for the way this defense is and the way this team performs.
Yeah, absolutely. This is huge for the team. He has been out since October 24th with a shoulder injury, so I know the Cardinals happy to have him back. Well, let's stick with the NFC West as we move on to our next topic, because Sunday could potentially be the last time we see Russell Wilson in a Seahawks uniform when he takes on the Cardinals, as we just mentioned, in Arizona. Although there was a lot of speculation this could be it for the 10-year Seattle quarterback, Wilson says he has a no-trade clause for a reason. Listen.
When it comes to no-trade clause in sports, the main reason is so teams can't trade somebody to anywhere. That's the number one reason, right? Because in sports, you could wake up the next morning, you're gone somewhere else. That's the number one reason. I think going back to your main question, though, for me, I think what I'm really super passionate about, obviously, my goal is to win more Super Bowls, and my plan is to win them here. It's that simple. I think that's, and so that's there's nothing really else other than that.
Do you all remember when Russell Wilson had a wish list of places he'd like to go? I think a lot of people forgot about that, but it has sure been a rough year for the quarterback. Neek, can Russ carry a team to a Super Bowl at this point?
Well, carry is an interesting word. I would say no, he can't carry a team because he's never done that before. He was very good for their Super Bowl teams, but he has the ability, I guess, the talent level to carry a team. So I do think that he can lead another team. If he ends up in New Orleans, which is one of the places that I know was on that list, if he goes there, they could add Russell to that system, and Sean Payton can build his offense around Russell Wilson's unique abilities. I think absolutely with that defense and that offensive line and Alvin Kamara and maybe the ability to attract another impressive weapon on the outside to that team, absolutely they could be competitive and they could get to another Super Bowl. But it's really hard to win them and to get to them, as Russell, I'm sure, has learned, because after his early success, they haven't been anywhere close since then.
Yeah, Russ can't carry no team to the Super Bowl. Nope, not going to believe it, not going to say it. He is not elite, and we just have to accept it. Now, we've been trying to push Russ into that tier, though, right? We've been saying let Russ cook. And early last year, they were letting Russ cook, and Russ was in the MVP category. And then Russ cooked, and eventually it went from hibachi to microwaving ramen noodles. And I've been in both places, and trust me, hibachi is better than when you microwave noodles. But that's what kind of has happened to this team. When they won Super Bowls, It was about Marshawn Lynch and the Legion of Boom. Actually, they forgot in one of those Super Bowls that it was about Marshawn Lynch, and that is the reason that they lost. And so now when we watch who Russell Wilson has become as a leader there, right, as the quarterback who's supposed to be carrying this team, it's actually kind of made the Seattle Seahawks go into the dumps. Is Russell Wilson good enough to quarterback a team to a Super Bowl ring? Absolutely, because he's better now in his career than he was early on in his career. But he has to be in a place where everything else works with his unique skill set, with his unique talents. And if he can get into the right place, I do agree with Dom on that, in the right place, surrounded by the right people, with the right coaches, with the right leaders, Russell Wilson is good enough to win a Super Bowl. He's not a guy to carry you to a Super Bowl. He is not on the Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady tier to me. And even if I'm speaking candidly, I take guys like Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, Joe Burrow over where I take Russell Wilson right now at this stage in his career.
Yeah,
I guess
but Ryan, you talk about he needs to be in the place with the right pieces, the right leaders, the right coaches. For a long time, this seemed to be the perfect situation for Russell. I mean, the Pete Carroll, Russell Wilson dynamic was cooking for such a long time. What do you think happened?
You know what? I don't really know what happened. This is a team that has always been about brotherhood, a team that's always been about chemistry, camaraderie. And then in the offseason, you hear Russell Wilson expressing his displeasure with how he's treated there, with the way that they value his word or they value his opinion. And then he comes out with a wish list. Listen, I don't know how many relationships you've all been in, but if I'm sitting down with my significant other, Charlie, or if Dom is doing the same thing, and they say, you know what, listen, I ain't really talking about leaving you right now. I don't want to leave today. But if this thing goes south, hit of 5 chicks I could be with other than you. You gonna probably have a problem with that.
Now.
Yeah, that's gonna be a problem
with that. Like, we ain't putting out, I ain't putting out lists if I ain't trying to go nowhere.
The interesting thing about Russ is if you talk to those players who are on those early teams, they thought that the organization was catering to Russ too much. And they thought that Russ was like being treated special despite the fact that he was not the key to that team's success. It's just interesting to see that it's developed into a place where now Russ feels like he is not being treated as well as he should be treated. But I did want to get back to the idea of carrying. Like you said, you're not putting him on the tier with those 3 names you mentioned. And I wouldn't put him on that tier either. But none of those guys are like carrying their team to the Super Bowl. No one would argue that last year Tom Brady carried the Bucs to the Super Bowl. No one who watched the games would argue that. Patrick Mahomes, I guess maybe you could say Patrick Mahomes, that year that they had those comebacks, they won that Super Bowl. Patrick Mahomes did that. But that team is not without talent. And Aaron Rodgers, the same reason. I mean, the same team, that team, or the same. They're similar in my view to like the Bucs. That team is well built for Aaron Rodgers. So I think that Russell in a similar situation could work out. But I'm not sure. Like Russell, I think a lot of people who are Russell defenders would say that the offenses have not been progressive or innovative that he's been inserted to, but he also is a bit of a freelancer. And that's when some of his best stuff comes up. So it'd be interesting to have him down in a Sean Payton system where the best we've seen Sean Payton's system work was with Drew Brees, who by no stretch of the imagination was that guy. He was third step, it's out. And he's getting it right on target to the right spot every time. So I'd like to see Russell, to see if he could operate in that system. And maybe not all the reason for his struggles is not because of the lack of offensive line or the lack of creativity in their play calling.
Okay, well, this is the first season with Russell at the helm that the Seahawks are losing, or finishing rather, with a losing season. So, guys, let's leave it there because we have more teams in the NFC West to get to when we get back after the break. Cooper